Shepard with Rebel Financial here with Tony Jones. Thanks for joining us for another one of our broadcasts. So today we're going to kind of pick up where we left off last week from reviewing Squeezed by Alyssa Court and really talk about the new economy. And we're kind of defining that as like, doing gig work or the gig economy, crowdfunding, the sharing economy, and then getting into kind of artificial intelligence and automation. So I'll let you kick us off, Tony.
This is a rapid change that we're all going through, right? I mean, even 10 years ago, we just started to see some of these things. So a lot of challenges that are coming for people. It's going to be a lot of displacement for people, but a lot of opportunity as well. So what is it? Things are just being done a lot more efficiently right now. I mean, the best example, the first one that comes to mind is ride sharing and Uber and things like that. I mean, even compared to 5 years ago, we're just getting around much more differently than we used to. And in addition to that, the employment of those people is a lot different, right? It's more of a gig, a part-time thing for a lot of those people. It's full-time for a lot of them as well, but that's just one example of how it's changing and how you can take advantage of it.
Yeah, the fundamental shift, I think, is that we're coming from, the old industrial of economy of scale. So you needed these big corporations to bring the economy of scale, employ people to produce things, and it made it affordable to be able to do that and sell things for a decent price. And over time, that's gotten better and better and better up until now you're starting to see that beyond that, we can become organized enough and utilize our resources to where the individual is able to overcome some of the inherent efficiencies of that economy of scale, right? And so when you are a small business or an entrepreneur trying to compete with a big company, unless you made something really niche or there was something that stopped someone from mass producing it or really organizing it on a large scale, you just couldn't do it. You couldn't compete with them because you might do something that cost $1,000 that they could end up at the end producing for $1,500 and make billions off of it, right? And so I think that's what's happened in the last 20 years, and slowly in different areas, that crossover point is happening more and more often. So the consequence of this, though, is that it is kind of a radical socioeconomic break in the fact that before, most of us, our parents worked for some company for most of their life. They took care of their health insurance and their salary and other benefits, etc. And you worked and you had some kind of security. Hopefully, if you worked for a company that didn't go under. And I think before the last 20 years, I mean, you had a really good chance with a lot of the big ones, GE and GM and a lot of the other Dow Chemical, like lots of companies, right, that lasted for a long time to make a good living and to be taken care of, basically. You worked hard, obviously. Yeah. And so this is what we're talking about, that shift from employer-employee to more and more people being able to be, gig workers, to be an independent contractor or a freelancer. And what we're going to talk about is some of the challenges, opportunities. We're going to define some of the different things for you, give you examples of some of the companies that are in those spaces. And if you're smart and you organize well, a lot of these are going to provide good opportunity for people.
Yeah, and back in the old days, you lived where you lived often because of the company you worked for. Sure. So it was kind of really core, a lot more to the community. And we haven't gone so far away from that, and still a lot of them are the core of the community. But we as a company, and probably many of the companies you deal with, are getting outsourced help from abroad, from Asia, from the other side of the world, basically.
Yeah.
And so we have the opportunity to be that employee, so to speak, of your own destiny. And there's advantages and disadvantages, but the world's just totally different than it was.
For sure. So one of the potential downsides of this is that bigger companies still have a big advantage on our like benefits and whatsoever. So like employee health insurance and paid time off and maybe even childcare, continuing education type benefits. And so, back in the day when everything was kind of big companies, then the government could lean on the companies more to provide that. The more we go into being self-employed individual workers, the more that we are going to lack those things if the government doesn't do something, to kind of take care of those things for us as a society. And I think we are going to have more and more pressure economically from even some of the big companies saying, you know what, even like Uber and stuff saying, you know what, you guys are self-employed or what so. And this is going to save us money to not have to buy the cars and not have to pay for health insurance and to not pay the self-employment or the employment taxes like Social Security and Medicare. So, you know what, fine, but that should be built in some other way. So if the big companies aren't going to do it, then the government needs to do it. So again, we're not trying to be political here. We're just saying, hey, more and more and more of you are going to be in this situation, and it's super very much in your interest. And even if you're not and you're ready to be retired from Cardinal Health or wherever, your kids are, right? And so you need to start thinking about this, not like it's like Democrats versus Republicans. It's like people that are your people are going to be hurt if we as a society don't change our mind frame. So again, this is probably, I think, one of the biggest potential downfalls of more and more people going this way is if we as a society don't kind of band together to make sure that we're taken care of.
Yeah, it's not so much I want a social program. It's about saying, what do we want? And we want people to be comfortable. We want people to, be able to be independent, employ themselves. I quite frankly, I don't know why companies want to deal with health insurance.
No, it's
horrible. I just don't get it. So
yeah, and you look at a lot of the studies about their money or their health or where their child care is going to come from are a lot more productive. So it's not like we would lose money either for some of these things to be taken care of. Plus, it would make a more level playing field for large companies versus small business owners versus independent contractors to say, hey, no matter who I work from, I got these same benefits. And that really is a market economy.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're not even talking about going towards social programs and socialism. That would allow everything to compete on a level playing field. So let's get into define some of these things. Gig economy. Really, we're talking about freelancers, independent contractors, people that do project work. Example, we already talked about a couple of them, but Uber and Lyft and Fiverr, TaskRabbit, Upwork, Gigster, Behance, Hire a Chef. There's like tons of them, right? So obviously you got to look at like what field you're in to which ones could be applicable to you. But I think even more, if I've listed these and you haven't heard of them, just Google them. Check it out because there might be some stuff that you pay high price tag for to have a full contractor come in, and you could go into TaskRabbit and have somebody come in and do it for a fraction of the cost. But when this guy or girl comes in to fix a couple of your electrical and repair your deck, they're just going to pay themselves instead of like 3 levels of management in a corporation getting paid, and everybody wins besides the corporation.
The big corporations.
Yeah.
And aside from what we listed, there is somebody doing something very efficiently in what you have a need for. So you can simply Google a topic and just say, hey, efficient way to do this or that, and you will probably find somebody who's created a website who has built a model around helping you out to make it more efficient for you. So
that gig economy, to me, that's adding lots of opportunity out there for people. Now, are there things that are negative about it? I mean, just like last week when we were talking about our book review, there are some people that these industries may be propping up to where, like for existing teachers in high cost of living places, that those school districts are being allowed to keep paying their people too little because it's propped up by them being able to do extra side work on the side. So there's problems with it, but overall it's positive. So if you work a regular 9 to 5 job and then drive Uber on the side, or you're a programmer that can do hourly work off Upwork and almost double your salary so that your family can have extra vacations or pay your student loan debt, like that's an awesome opportunity. Right?
And to get ahead.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so from that respect, that's a great thing. I mean, if you're someone that does, keep your day job and are doing programming or design work or something, then you can get into it and see if it's viable, make the extra money in the interim, and then once it's viable, you can flip into that, you know? So it's a good opportunity. That's how that should be used. Once you can make a viable business out of it, you've got enough savings, to where you could take not being employed for a while. Because really, this type of thing is kind of a little start your own business thing. And when we work with clients financial planning wise, we tell them, hey, if you're going to start your own business, then instead of having 3 months of emergency reserves, you need like 6 to 12, right? Because there are going to be times when you can't get work, or there's a recession like now. You can't count on the government, giving you a bailout to claim unemployment when you're not supposed to be able to. And even if you could, it's only a fraction of what you normally make. You got to be able to weather these storms,
Yeah.
and it's going to take some more individual responsibility.
Well, and it's just a good way to look at it. It's kind of a segue to a new job. I mean, if you really want to, or a new business, if you really want to get a business going, you're not necessarily going to have all the revenue coming in that you might in a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a way to help you be able to do that when you didn't have that before.
And you got to be
Not the
smart,
flexibility.
because you're going to go through boom and bust periods. When you hit a boom period, you just can't assume this is the new normal and just buy the big house and an expensive car and not have any savings. What you got to do is still live within your means. Like, it's kind of average. Take that extra stuff and just put it into savings. Now, if it lasts for over a year or two and your savings gets ridiculous, yeah, then spend some of that money.
Yeah.
But yeah, we see a lot of people get into trouble with that. I mean, we see regular people that work hourly jobs, even like nurses and what, so that you'll be in a boom time to where they can just get all the overtime that they want. And, after a year or so, maybe even two, just pulling it in, they just assume that the good times are going to last forever. Well, look at where we are now. Who would have thought in an epidemic like this, a lot of nurses and stuff are even getting furloughed because the census is down and the hospitals want to conserve money too, and they're just laying people off. No, not even can you get any overtime. It's like they don't even need you half the time that you're supposed to be scheduled for, right? So live within your means and don't just think the good times are going to keep on going when they're going. So the next thing we're going to go into is the sharing economy. Sharing economy is like near and dear to me. It's my favorite one. You wanna?
Yeah, no, I was going to say we have great clients, and they're pretty. They have great ingenuity, and I've seen a lot of good examples of what people are trying to do using the sharing economy. I mean, there's just a lot of ways that you could get a little bit more by sharing some things. And we're going to see more about the automobiles, but the ones I'm talking about now are really housing, Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a couple families that are buying rental properties to rent out now for a number of years until they decide to move into those. So if you can get a good 5 to 7 to 10 year head start, they're cash flowing even because they don't need that much. And then by the time they're ready to move there, they can sell their home here and just pay that home off because they will have been into it. That's one example, right? But there's just so many ways that are available.
And I think last time we mentioned a couple times, it's like, it's one of the things about us. It doesn't have to be this horrible thing, but humans are like insatiable in their wants. Right?
Yeah.
We always want more. And I think one thing that consumerism, America, capitalism in general has done to us is like say, we got to have this, we got to have that. And interestingly, not every family in the United States needs 2 or 3 cars. It's crazy, but they sure made a hell of a lot of money. So the sharing economy is us using our resources more often or more efficiently. So, if you buy something that's kind of expensive, like a jet ski, to just park it 98% of the time, that's kind of crazy. I mean, if you're just rich, that's fine, but you could rent it out, 3/4 of the time when you're not using it, with insurance and stuff, so if something happened to it. But you do something like that, and somebody else can enjoy it for a fraction of the cost. You could pay it off a whole lot faster. It's not so much of a financial burden. Um, Anything, camping equipment. One of the ones that me and my family did a couple years ago was we rented an RV for a week instead of just like going on a vacation somewhere, and it was great. Was it cheaper than booking a hotel or a cabin or something? No, it was not, but it was a really cool experience at a fraction of the cost and commitment of buying $100 and some $1,000 RV, right?
Yeah.
So the sharing economy is opening up tons of ability for us to be able to have a higher quality and standard of life without the shackles of owning everything or being in debt to try to own everything. And so I think that's very important. And again, I think that's part of the reason why even though middle class wage growth has been pretty stagnant for a lot of us, it doesn't feel that way. And it's because of the price of things have gone down and because of the sharing economy to where we don't have to pay, you know, $4,000 for a week to stay in a Marriott or Hilton something, and we could do an Airbnb or VRBO or whatever, and have an awesome trip that, arguably is nicer accommodations,
Right.
you know?
And it's helping individuals, not
Mhm.
corporations, and so there's
Absolutely.
just a lot more opportunity. And really, it can be from the finite things like clothing
Yeah.
and things like that, all the way up to cars and houses.
And again, there are negatives to anything. So somebody who watches this like, oh, I hate Airbnb or HomeAway because they made property values in my place more expensive. And it's like, yeah, there's going to be negatives, right? And we got to figure as a society, how to balance the negatives and positives. But I think overall, sharing economy is a huge positive for most of the for the middle class. So again, some other examples we mentioned: Airbnb, HomeAway, Lending Club, Sophie, Turo, Car2Go, different co-working things. You might have heard of like Cohatch is in our area. The old ones like eBay and Craigslist and Amazon. I mentioned RV Share, Care.com, Sitter City. I found a new cool one called CrowdMed, to where you actually like crowdsource basically doctors and physicians to figure out what your medical problem is, and it could be significantly more affordable, and you may even get better answers. So I thought that was a cool example. So I'm sure there will be lots more new
Yeah.
things coming around.
Well, and just going back to last week when we did Alyssa Court, her book, single mothers, they got together in a house and things like that, and so they were sharing meals and making things more efficient for all of them, because those are the things that can hold you back. So just finding ways to get economies of scale on things is what we're trying to do. Somewhat like the rental car industry has been doing forever with rental cars, right?
Mhm.
We're just seeing, and I guess hotels are the same way, right? They're sharing those rooms and stuff, but this is just more on a personal level.
Yep. And then, so the next one we're going to go a little bit faster through, but crowdfunding. So before crowdfunding, you had to either be independently wealthy, know a lot of wealthy people, mortgage your whole future to get a loan from a bank, basically, to be able to start any kind of business idea. And a lot of people might have had good ideas, and then they ended up with a fractional share of the ownership of that because they went to a bigger company that just basically said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, like Shark Tank. But you give me 95% of the company, we'll make it. And there you go. You don't hardly get jack
Right.
in the end. And so with crowdfunding, you can go out there and get, hopefully regular people to kind of pull in together to fund your idea or your need. There are other ones out there. So the ones like business wise, like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Then you look at some of the more softer side of things like causes and Kiva and GoFundMe for good causes or to help people as well too. And then the last one we'll mention is well, let's hit the financial category. We already talked about Lending Club and SoFi. But Lending Club is like peer-to-peer lending where people get together that have money, lend to people that don't have money. And so that to me is an awesome thing as well too. Who knows? Eventually, between that and looking at some of the options from a lot of the cryptocurrencies and blockchain, there might be a lot of smart contract type things that come around that maybe not replace banks, but become a really solid alternative for a lot less expense. And so it could be a really good thing for people that aren't just wealthy now.
Yeah, well, just think of here in town when, during the coronavirus, we needed ventilators, right?
Yeah.
And so Tarek Youssef here in town was able to.
Who's hopefully going to be on with us next week.
And so he was able to reach out through GoFundMe to collect some money to help facilitate the change to help society, really.
Build some.
And so the process would have been much slower and longer to have done it through the bank channels and things like that.
Yeah.
So
it wouldn't even have helped.
It would have
helped the next one.
So, but anyway, just an example, you can get things going in a hurry if you have the right cause, and you can reach a lot more people out faster.
And then our last kind of category before we just kind of hit into our conclusion and sum it up and giving you some best practices is automation and artificial intelligence. And so, we hear a lot about this, and we've seen a lot of movies of bad outcomes dystopian futures, etc. But again, let's give some of the examples of some of these before we kind of talk about it. So IBM's Watson, we've heard of that. A lot of the automation with cars like Tesla. Hopefully they'll be self-driving soon. One that you've used forever, Google Search. Amazon's product recommendations. You ever wonder how they know what you want and then it follows you around to other platforms? Alexa and Siri, all your social media stuff. So if you use any of those social medias and you get to speed, how is it catered to you, to what you want to digest and like?
GPS.
GPS,
I,
yeah,
I
but
wonder how many
navigation.
more maps, how less are made today than 15 years ago.
Oh yeah, and then it keeps learning and getting smarter, and it can even tell us different ways to go to avoid the traffic. Remember the days of when somebody gave you their address and you couldn't even find it on MapQuest because even though it was built 2 years ago, it's just not there, right? And now it's like updated if somebody wrecked 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, how many businesses would have to say, now don't listen to your GPS because it's going to take you to the wrong way. We don't have to worry about that these days.
And then smart home and email. Think about how little um, kind of spam you get now versus how much is in your spam folder. And when's the last time most people really got a good phishing, the PH type of phishing email, and realized it? I mean, Google and Yahoo and Microsoft are filtering most of those things out so that you don't even see them. So AI is keeping you safer already. So talking about that, I think the biggest thing I'll kind of bring up is the fear, right? What happens if robots and computers take all our jobs, right? How are we going to make any money? Are we going to have anything? The rich people are just going to get richer, etc. What are your thoughts?
Well, being somebody who is, I'm older than you are, right? You're great at technology, so we've kind of been thrown into using more technology here than most companies. Mm-hmm. I've been thrown into it. You've been
doing the throwing.
You've been making the kettle. But once you get comfortable with it and see how much it can all benefit from us, I think you get more comfortable with it. But you're right. I mean, there are people who have done one thing their whole life. Even they might only be in their 30s or 40s, right? But they're just not comfortable with technology. And so they see some of the benefits once they get comfortable with it. But they also see that something's going to be coming to take their job away, possibly at some point in the future. But you have to look at it holistically and know that it is lowering the cost for all of us.
For sure.
And that's why going back to probably more social programs to help us get to make us more comfortable with that. But it's going to, and I think it's just important that everybody. You can't keep telling yourself you don't understand technology. You have to push yourself.
Life's going to get better. Things are going to get less expensive. There's going to be less errors. More people are going to live rather than die. So almost all the way around, unless somebody invents and gives power to Skynet, we'll probably be all right. I think the main thing, though, is I think a lot of jobs that aren't empathetic to where humans choose to want to work with humans over the next 20 years will be displaced. And for a lot of people, that's scary and that's bad, especially where there's the strong Protestant, belief that everybody should work and work hard and people get what they deserve to a certain degree. And I think that's going to be very challenging, especially for our country, because we do have that hard ingrained belief. But I think it's going to happen, and a lot of people, like even we've mentioned back talking to the book that we reviewed last week, want to do like protectionism to protect jobs and stop a lot of this technology. And it's you go back to that argument that if that really is that much more efficient and better, it would almost be economic suicide. Because if Asia or other developing countries decided to adopt, and us and Europe did not, it would be very super catastrophic in terms of winners and losers in the future. I think what's probably more reasonable as a lot of this stuff happens, hopefully we all benefit from the lowering cost of goods and services and the higher efficacy of them, but we're going to have some kind of universal basic income or whatever you call it. There's like all these different names for it now. But I think that's what we're going to get to. And for the people that still find good work, they'll have that plus what they make. And maybe other people will find other good work to do. So it doesn't necessarily have to be working at something that you don't like for someone that you don't want to work for. It could be working, be a better parent, or picking up a second profession like cooking, and you cook for your community or your family a whole lot more. We become all better artists, and we don't have trashy parts of our city anymore. We paint them and make them all nice. There is work worth doing that doesn't necessarily have to be menial to just produce money for a lot of things that we don't even believe in.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just going to be exceptionally difficult to try, if you wanted to slow it down. Because first of all, too many people are comfortable with it and they want it. In fact, it brings a lot of benefit. So, I don't even think slowing it down is a possibility. I think you're going to have to force yourself to get used to this if you're not comfortable with it,
Yep.
and to learn why and how it benefits.
And let it jive with the other things we were talking about. So, if you do work in a gig economy and some of this stuff is helping you do your job better so you can focus on the part that you're good at. So, like if you're a designer, some of the, tasks that you may have had to do by hand in Illustrator is going to get more and more automated, just like all the tools they've got on the side, or video production or making music. You may not need, a huge 7-piece band. You may just need one person with the AI kind of synthesizing a lot of stuff, but you make the awesome artistic part of it. So there's going to be a lot of cool things that happen, and you can benefit from them. Even in our profession, a lot of the investment management, and some of the financial planning stuff is going to get automated over the next 10 years. Instead of fighting against it, to maybe even do fraudulent advertising to say that our human advisors can do some kind of Warren Buffett thing to make returns better than the artificial intelligence investment engine. We need to add more of the human side of things to make behavioral outcome for our clients better, to invest in things to allow us to connect with more people that didn't get advice, whether that's virtual reality or augmented reality, along with to use the technology with the personal connection of human beings helping human beings make better decisions financially. There's going to be a lot of opportunity there. And while some jobs will be lost, there's going to be a net huge increase. I think if we don't continue this wealth and income inequality, right? It needs to be spread more, especially if machines and robots maybe they're 3 or 4 times more productive than us, right? That'd be awesome, So let's get into the practical. So the practical is, how do you work this to make your life better instead of worse?
I think, we're going to all have to be more flexible in what we're doing. I mean, you're going to have to learn more than one trade, so to speak. I mean, and not necessarily one trade, but the ability to be able to be flexible and to be able to branch out more. It's not going to be where you just have one.
Yeah, you're not going to be doing one rivet, come back, one rivet, and all you have to do is know how to put in a rivet.
Right. And so the more repetitious, in fact, someone's doing something, the more likely
the easier it is.
That is going to be gone. So.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? That would probably lead to work that over time is more rewarding, right? Because you did something that you weren't just some automaton, human robot. You learned something and created something that was beautiful or will be enduring or helped someone else. So getting back to what we do, kind of financial planning, I think the number one thing, especially since more and more people are going to be more entrepreneurial, is live within your means. Really live below your means, and then always have savings so that when you go through the bad times of, when there's not as much work, or that your spouse gets laid off, or their occupation becomes obsolete and they've got to retrain, you could live off of just the other person's salary, or the savings. So I think that's a huge one that could save people a ton. And at a certain point, don't get comfortable, with what's been going on the last few times we had recessions and downturns, that the government's just going to come to the rescue. Because I don't know when it's going to happen, but if we don't change, people aren't going to lend to us forever.
Right. There's going to be a hard reality one day. So we need to do a better job.
And it's going to be a double whammy, because not only is the bag going to hit, but then when people don't want to loan to us and the interest rates go up on that debt and and they have to tax more
Yeah.
eventually, then it's going to be a long, bad time.
Yeah,
You know?
I always say too, I mean, I pointed this out before, the financial independent, FIRE is the whole thing, financial independent, retire early community, but really it's financial independence. I mean, look for ways that you can become more financially independent, and most of those ways are going to be often through the sharing economy, the gig economy.
Next tip, don't break yourself in high cost of living areas. I mean, if you live in New York or San Francisco or San Diego and you are lucky enough to have an awesome job to where you can afford it and you're paying off a super expensive house, by the time you retire, that's going to be awesome. I mean, you got to retire
Higher than they need to be. You can come to a place like Columbus, Ohio, or so many other cities where you can find, you know, just as good, competent employees and land and building that you don't have to pay for in those high expensive areas.
is a huge one. Next week or week after next, we're going to be doing and really more than ever now, I think it's becoming fairly apparent that these overpriced degrees are not a good indicator of who's going to be successful and a productive, you know, team member of your company or whatever the case. And so, while I don't want to downplay education because I do believe in it, it makes better people, and eventually, we don't have a we'll on universal basic income. I still believe in education because it makes people live better, happier lives, more fulfilling lives. But right now, in terms of people graduating with, you know, 40 to a couple $100,000 in debt, and a lot of times for professions that could get automated or may not be around, we were just talking about attorneys and how much overflow there was. And I remember when I was going to school, God, it's been 20 years ago, I remember that was still a statistic. Like, we're graduating too many attorneys.
Right.
Like, what are people still doing going to law school in those droves unless you are just the creme de la creme on the top and you know people, you know?
Well, the other thing is too, you may not like what you go to school for. I mean, we're expecting 18 to 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds to go to school for something they think they want to do when they really have no experience with that topic or career other than what they've seen somewhere.
Don't the debt. That's our next thing.
I-
There are ways to do it without doing it.
And I want to say this, if you're, you know, when you have an 18-year-old child, they have a lot of control over where they're going into debt they can rack up. So you need to start feeding this into them. You know, as soon as they get in high school, you need to explain to them what is so bad about the debt and how it's really going to constrain their life and life choices.
Well, a lot of it's you too. I mean, like, cause parents, man. I mean, parents are taking on a lot of this debt. Like,
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, the Fed loans aren't going to cover it in a lot of circumstances. So they're either using their home equity or plus loans. And it's probably, even though we love our kids, a poor investment decision.
It is.
And so, yeah. But continue learning affordably. I think one of the things is we are going to change professions. We're going to do different things. We're going to engage the gig economy. But do education if you do have a traditional employer that you work for and they'll pay for it. You know, I can't even tell you how much stuff I've learned on things like lynda.com or YouTube. YouTube, man, just, I mean, like, I learned how to use my plasma cutter and to weld and to take care of bees. And, like, there's so many things that you can learn. Just, you could take apart your whole car by watching YouTube videos and put it back together. Hopefully it still works.
Don't try it.
But there's so much that you could continue to learn for pretty much for free. And a lot of that can be very practical knowledge you're not going to get anywhere else.
Another one, as we talk about, one that comes to mind is, you know, we talked about being somebody who has a property and you do Airbnb. If you're living, look for inexpensive ways to live. You know, you don't need a 3-bedroom apartment if you're alone and you're young and you have debt. Look for the least expensive way to live. I mean, be part of the sharing economy too, but helping those that have already built up something.
Yeah, find opportunities to collaborate and to use your ingenuity. Even just some of the examples in the book that we read last week, or some of the things I've just seen from people, even like what we've done to find like a part-time semi-retired nanny for our kids is a fraction of the cost of the standardized childcare. But lots of people have friends and other um, family and what so that are in similar situations. You can, come together to do childcare or help each other with your kids. And I don't know. I mean, there are just so many ideas that people can come up with to make it reasonable. And again, we can't all just depend on the government to change and fix everything. We need to come up with ideas. We need to share ideas with each other. One of the things I've done is put in solar panels and want to be independent. I think a lot of what the utilities are doing and how they charge are not right. But they pretty much got carte blanche to do and charge whatever they want to, right? So nowadays, energy is abundant. More light hits the earth in one day to power for the entire year. We could do that. We can own our energy. We can own our futures. We can own our jobs. We can own our happiness. And it doesn't necessarily flow from politicians. We do definitely need our military and police to protect us from chaos and to make sure that other people don't take it away from us. But the point of this is that there's a lot of opportunity out there. Is it going to take work? Absolutely. But I think as we continue to progress, it will be a lot more rewarding work that possibly you could get even greater reward from. So, any closing thoughts?
No, I think, people just need themselves to be made more creative. And I always, start preparing, for your life as early as possible. The more you are prepared, the more savings you have, the less debt you have, the more flexibility you're going to have in your career and take advantage of these things, as opposed to just being pigeonholed, because you do have debt and you put yourself in a tough position. You have to have a particular job because it earns enough money to pay the bills, but you hate life.
So thanks for joining us again. Join us next week. Hopefully we'll have everything worked out for Tariq Yusuf to come in, tell us about the COVID-19 ventilators, how he came up with the idea, the project, getting it funded, and the good that hopefully is coming out of it. And then the week after, we're going to have Anthony O'Neill in here for the debt-free degree. So if you're reading ahead to participate with us on the next book review, you've got that title. So again, happy May. Hope you guys are doing great, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you soon.